Welcome to Blending Basics. My name is Yvonne Bourne, and I am a certified clinical aromatherapist and educator. And I will be sharing with you today a simple technique for you to create safe and effective essential oil blends. Blending is an art and a science. One of my favorite aspects of being a practicing clinical aromatherapist is to research, experiment, and create an effective custom blend for someone. You most likely began your essential oil experience with blends through your Young Living Premium Starter Kit, and this is a great place to begin. Young Living blends are formulated by a master aromatherapist, D. Gary Young. And as you grow more confident in using essential oils and begin to understand their characteristics and properties, you may find yourself experimenting and creating a few of your own. Here are a few quick tips as you begin. When you begin, start simply. Begin with 2 to 3 single oils. Always keep blending journal. So many times I think that I'm going to remember the oils and the amount that I use, but I quickly forget. Keep a blending journal. Young Living has many blends that you're going to fall in love with. Read and learn the single oils in those blends and find out what their properties and characteristics are. You'll begin to know what blends well together simply by understanding what has gone into some of your very favorite blends. When creating a blend, think about the purpose. Who is it for? And what's the intended outcome? Many times we blend for the aroma and our simple enjoyment. Many times this becomes an emotional or a blend for mental support. There's also therapeutic blending, where we wish to address a physical or a body system. And there's spiritual blending. Many oils assist us in our quiet, meditative time with prayer, reflection, and help us go deeper within. There's a few definitions that we need to understand. When using the term neat, it simply means that the essential oil is undiluted. Generally, it's straight from the bottle. And the term carrier often refers to a fatty vegetable oil, but there are other carriers: water, witch hazel, vodka, aloe vera, chemical-free lotions. All of these can be used to dilute and carry the essential oil. Always use a quality organic carrier. Choosing a carrier is part of creating the blend. It may simply be what you have on hand, or doing some research, you may choose the carrier by the therapeutic properties. Some of the favorites that I use are almond oil. This is one that's going to allow the essential oils to be absorbed very slowly. However, the shelf life is not very long, 6 to 12 months. But almond oil is generally good for all skin types, but I caution, always know if someone has a nut allergy. Avocado oil is for more drier, older skin. Shelf life is about a year. It will have a slight scent to it. Coconut oil is pretty much generally good for all skin types. However, if someone has very oily skin and is subject to blemishes on the face, sometimes I caution to avoid using coconut directly on that type of a skin for the face. But it has a very long shelf life, 2 to 4 years. My favorite is jojoba. Jojoba isn't really an oil at all. It's a wax. But again, it's generally good for all skin types. It's a lighter oil, and it does not really have any scent. and this can last a very long time. So buying a larger quantity, you can keep it for at least 5 years. Olive oil, good for all skin types again, but it's a bit heavier, about 2 years shelf life. And then Young Living has a very special blend called V6, and this is one of my favorites to use as well. It's very light and it won't cause any stains. But again, I caution to know who you're making your blend for, because it does contain wheat germ oil, and so if someone does have celiac or gluten sensitivity, you may wish to avoid V6. Dr. Septimus P.S., a French chemist and perfumer, wrote in 1857 the book, The Art of Perfumery. And he was famous in his time for his theories that loosely compared music and how certain aromas or smells work together. And to this day, his blending theory is used, as well as many other more complex blending techniques. But for our purposes, it's an easy method to follow once you know what type of note the essential oil has. So if we want to choose our oils to create a harmonious blend, we're going to choose a top note. Now this note is going to be the one that we typically, when we smell a blend, it's going to leave our first impression, but it's also going to be the note that will evaporate the fastest. Some examples of a top note would be lemon or other citrus oils, cinnamon, tea tree, lavender. And typically when using the top note, it becomes about 30% of your blend. Choose a middle note. Now this is going to really be the heart of the blend. This is going to be what you really pick up on, but it's going to be deep within as well. And some of those typical oils we would use as a middle note would be geranium, peppermint, ginger, and this is going to take up about 50% of your blend. And then there's going to be a deep, deep note, this base note that we use. And only about 20% of the blend is going to be this deep note, but it's going to be what's really going to ground and what's going to really put the whole blend together. And this will evaporate very slowly. So some of your heavier oils, your thicker oils, frankincense, patchouli, cedarwood, those are good ones. Now, if you don't know if an essential oil, if it's a top note, middle note, base note, your Higley guide, if you own one, is a good place to check. It will tell you, based upon PS's theory of how to blend, it will tell you. But you could even just do a simple Google search and Google in, top notes or middle notes or base notes, and it will tell you. Well, let's define what a safe and effective dilution is. Most aromatherapists, when creating a blend, are going to create a blend that is a 5% dilution, because this is generally safe and effective for any adult. When creating a blend for a younger child or the elderly, often you take that 5% dilution and then, based upon age, size, concerns, you continue to dilute that 5% solution a little bit more. Between the ages of 1 and 12, we metabolize essential oils much more quickly. A young child's body has a higher metabolism. And so our body systems are still developing in the younger years. Weight can be very different, and often you want to look at a child's weight, especially around 10 to 12-year-olds. If they're large enough, you may consider them to have an adult dosage. But typically, between ages 1 to 12, we still consider that to be a child or youth. Infants, we always want to dilute deeply. So taking 1 drop of that 5% dilution, you're going to want to add more of your carrier oil to that, dilute it even more. So one of the The rule of thumb for an aromatherapist when working with an infant is to take 1 drop of 5% dilution, and to that 1 drop add 10 drops of the carrier. Now, working with elderly or frail people, very thin skin, you typically are still going to dilute even more that 5% dilution and make it about a half of an adult dilution. And these are generally, this is going to be considered very safe dilutions for anyone. Now, again, we always want to err on the side of caution, and we want to use these dilutions. You can always add more. You can always apply more frequently. But when you're using a dilution, you're starting off less is more, and you're applying more frequently. Consistency is key when using essential oils, and so putting it into a carrier oil and creating a blend with a carrier will allow you to apply frequently and allow you to have a slower absorption rate. I always save my empty 5 or 15 milliliter bottles. I actually save them, and then I will boil them in water and let them cool, take them out and let them cool, and I will actually reuse those when I create my blends. Very often I will then apply a roller top to them and make my blends with oils that are with bottles that I already have. So just I caution you though to just make sure that you've sterilized them, and you can begin using anything you've already got. And you can take the labels off or leave them on, but I would suggest that over the top of a label that you mark what it is, what it was for, and what you put inside of it. All right, so let's think about how do we make a 5% dilution. Starting with a teaspoon of a carrier oil, to this you're going to add 5 drops of essential oil. If you're working with a larger amount, you take a half an ounce, which is the equivalent of a 15 milliliter bottle. So in that 15 milliliter bottle, you're going to drop in 15 drops of the essential oil. Then you would add in your carrier to the shoulder. The shoulder is just that rim that goes around that very top, and that is you're creating that 5% dilution in your 15 milliliter carrier. Now, if you want a very large amount, like if you were using a large amount of coconut oil and you wanted to scoop out 4 ounces, which is a half a cup, and to that you would add 72 drops of your essential oil or a half a teaspoon. So let's create this harmonious blend with a top note, a middle note, and a base note, and create it into a 5% dilution. If you're using a 5 milliliter bottle, you're going to use 1 to 2 drops of your top note, 3 drops of your middle note, and 1 drop of your base note. In a 15 milliliter bottle, you're going to drop in 4 to 5 drops of your top note, 7 to 8 drops of your middle note, and 3 drops of your base note. We've defined dilution, and you've chosen your base carrier, and you've chosen your essential oils. So depending on what you want to create it for, your purpose, you can decide on the carrier oil. You can make lots of decisions about which oils to use, and you're going to write them down in your journal, and you're going to be ready to get started. But I'm going to give you one of my favorites that I created. This is what I tend to use for myself, and I've created similar blends for others. This would be something that would be used to support joint health and support, especially if there was discomfort involved, and it's wonderful as a muscle blend as well. I take 4 drops lemongrass, 8 drops marjoram, and 3 drops of ginger. I place the drops into the 15 milliliter bottle, fill the bottle to the shoulder with jojoba or another carrier oil. I place my Aroma Glide roller fitment on the bottle, and then after it's secure, I roll between my hands to blend. Now this blend is something that if I'm creating this for someone, I often send my loving intentions into the oil, into the blend, and ask that it serve the purpose that it's been created for. And it can be applied topically on location. It's been a very effective blend, and I encourage you to give it a try. Lemongrass and ginger are considered hot essential oils, so I really caution you to try it and wait a little bit to see if how you're doing with it, and then you can again reapply it as often as needed. We didn't mention, but Epsom salts and baking soda can also be considered a carrier. This very same blend that I use to support joints and muscles can also be used in the bath. Simply do the same ratio that you were using and put it into 2 cups of Epsom salts and a half a cup of baking soda. Blend it very well and then just sprinkle into the bath and agitate the water to dissolve it. Creating blends is fun, and it's just it's a wonderful way to show someone that you care, that you want them well, you want them to feel well, and that you're thinking about them. So experiment and play and have fun and learn. And then the best part of all, though, is to share your blends. When you find something that has been effective and has worked well for you, share your blends, because we all learn from each other. I hope you've enjoyed these blending basics, and I look forward to hearing about what some of your blends are that you create.